we need students that even fly quads to understand that it is a roll, pitch, and yaw. It is a theory, and those aerodynamics will keep you safe. So let me say, do you know how to do a maximum line of sight recovery for your aircraft? If you lose it, can you do that?
I used to. Yeah.
Okay. So that is the single most important thing we can teach a student. And the truth be known, aerodynamics is really important. I don't care if you have an autonomous vehicle. When that vehicle goes out of control, you have to be able to control it.
Welcome to the Crop Science Podcast Show. My name is Bryan Whittenton, and I'm coming to you from the campus of Oklahoma State University. The Crop Science Podcast Show is brought to you on behalf of the folks at Wyzenetics. Today, I'm happy to have a pair of educators with us today. We have Dr. Amelia Fox, Assistant Professor in Plant and Soil Sciences at Mississippi State, and Dr. Bryan Whittenton, also Assistant Professor in the Plant and Soil Sciences at Mississippi State. They work in the remote sensing area in mapping, GIS mapping technology, precision ag, and aiding students in obtaining the FAA Part 107 certification in remote piloting. Amelia and Bryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
So I want to start with Amelia and then move to Bryan. Tell the audience a little bit, tell the folks listening a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in this position.
Well, thank you. I came here in 2011 to work on the Gulf oil crisis, the Macondo well blowout. I was a GIS analyst working in renewable energies in Illinois. Came here, finished my PhD in agronomy, and was asked to help found the Precision Ag program. In 2015, Bryan was a graduate student at the time, and he was the first unmanned pilot that I trained. At that time, we were forbidden to even fly on campus. And through a period of twists and wiggles, we were able to finally move flight training to campus at the Mississippi State University Horse Park. We have a beautiful aerial field there. So I work in GIS, remote sensing, and unmanned flight, but I'm also picking up a new career late in life, going back to renewable energies in solar for farms, solar energy for farms. So I will be retooling this next year and probably still involved with flight, but Bryan is so well trained. And now that he's come on board at the university, take it away, Bryan.
Yeah, so like Dr. Fox was saying, I came to the university, started a master's program back in 2014, and Dr. Fox happened to come back. We were looking at trying to do some remote sensing in corn. We didn't have a lot of options at the time, so we were doing a lot of ground-based truth sensing, a lot of leaf clips, things like that. Yeah. I left in 2017 to go back to the family farm and worked there for a couple years, working with cotton, soybeans, and peanuts with pecans during the wintertime. Mm-hmm. In 2020, I was offered a PhD option to come and get a PhD here at Mississippi State in peanut research and started working on that, incorporated what I had learned previously during my master's program with the new drones that we had available. We actually built a lot of custom drones to attach sensors to capture relevant remote sensing data, we were looking at determining peanut maturity above ground without having to dig up the peanuts and manually rate them for what their maturity is.
Bryan, who was your PhD with?
Dr. Brendan Zerweller.
Okay, Zerweller. I was wondering if it was Zerweller. Well, fascinating. That's pretty cool. So share with a little bit about the program. Dr. Fox, you mentioned you're going to give kind of the 50,000 view and let Bryan kind of drill down. So tell us about what is going on at Mississippi State right now.
All right. Well, I'll just give you the 50,000 view. In the College of Ag and Life Sciences, which is one half of the campus approximately, there are multiple programs. There's ag engineering, biotechnology, plant soil sciences, landscape architecture, human sciences, food sciences. And any one of those departments can have a precision ag emphasis. So my job is to actually reach out and figure out where we can put in technology, where we can dive in technology. And Bryan is taking over teaching the core precision ag coursework. And then we have subset courses. In my case, flight, GI, remote sensing. In his case, want to tell him all the other courses you teach?
Yeah, so we've got the two basic courses, Precision Ag 1 and Precision Ag 2, in and that's available kind of split across a few of the departments. And we get students, like Amelia was saying, from ag econ, human sciences, ag engineering, landscape architecture, even outside of the college itself, coming to take the classes. And we build on that basis by sending them over to ag engineering for a more specific emphasis on how GPS systems work. And then the ag econ department has their analysis class of, are these technologies worth it based on the scale of the farm and specific applications there.
And it's interesting for me. So I teach precision ag at Oklahoma State, and I took it over. It's been 16, 17 years now since I'm teaching it. And it started with just ag engineers and plant and soil science students getting that combo. And man, over the years, it's almost turned into a general studies course because of the interest across. And like you said, it used to be, okay, maybe we had a couple turf kids, right? That was that one group that would drop in. Now we've got environmental sciences, and I got a physics student last year. And so it's been interesting to have a course where 18 years ago, I dropped right into yield monitor, how you use the data, how to clean the data. I now have to take a lecture on describing what a combine is
Right.
and how a combine works. And so I've been struggling teaching PA because I've had to take my PA that was a little bit more applied, and now I have to teach, they don't know, the kids coming in don't know the difference between a planter and a drill, and they wouldn't know the difference between a combine and a sprayer. And so I'm taking a little bit more time to describe some of that. So are you guys seeing the same in your PA1, or how do you deal with that?
I am. I'm seeing the exact same thing happening. When I started teaching this class back in 2022, just jumped right in. I had no thoughts of that the students wouldn't understand what each of the pieces of equipment do and how they work. I mean, I grew up on a farm. I've been in the belly of a combine more times than one more time would be one too many. And now I have a full lecture. We take a whole class period to go through from the header of the combine all the way out the back, watch multiple videos, discuss about how they work. And
we probably watch the same videos, Bryan, because those videos help. So. I can only draw so much on a board and show pictures. Those videos really help.
Bryan, this does speak to a problem that we have in the academic community, and that's workforce development skills. Because students are coming through, secondary and primary school with no work experience whatsoever, with the exception to some farm kids actually do get some. But in general, the general student population has no work skill whatsoever. They wouldn't know a flathead from a straight slot, so they call them plus and minus screwdrivers. So again, the 50,000 foot view is we have a workforce development problem.
Yeah.
And there could be a segue, we need to think carefully about this, but one segue would be to slow down their educational process and say, there might need to be a interim period before they come to university.
I've taken the approach on and I'm hoping, we got short on faculty numbers here. So most land grants, we don't have the same amount of faculty that we did in the 90s. And maybe you guys do, but it seems to be nationwide. Most of us are dealing with as much or more with fewer people right now. And so trying to develop, a PA2, but, in my Precision Ag 1, which I hope to have a 2 later, I'm dealing with that. And so, discussing what is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, because my Precision Ag talks about variable rate management on fertility. It has IPM, it has yield monitor data, remote sensing. So the best I can do is provide not even 50, but 100,000-foot view on at least basics of concepts. What is EC? What is electromagneticity? What is electroconductivity? And how could it relate to soils? How do you move from that into what does your Precision Ag 2 course look like? What's that next level?
Right. So this is you described exactly my thought process every time I switch semesters.
Yeah.
Because for the Precision Ag 1 here at Mississippi State, it's a sophomore level class. The only prerequisite for that is that they pass college algebra.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So most of the students coming in haven't even had a soils class yet. So as part of that, the Precision Ag 2 does require soils. So
Yep.
I've had to shift those topics around where you may teach all of the soils and fertilizers and all of that in your Precision Ag 1.
Yeah.
I've had to move that into the second class where it's a senior level class. Students have had more soils classes. They know what nitrogen does in a plant, hopefully by that point. And we can start talking more specifics about why we make those decisions. Whereas when I tried to teach it in the sophomore level class, it just went over their heads.
Yeah, ours is a junior level, and we didn't have to have prereqs because it used to be always senior in precision. I mean, we started this Precision Ag course in 2001, 99 to 01. So it's a fairly mature course, but it was always seniors in plant and soil sciences and engineering, which you didn't have to have prereqs. They were there. And so now I have to do like a 3-day lecture. I do 2 lectures on the basics of fertility to go into that. And I don't want to keep asking. I love talking to educators, and the problems is, I look at training students on using GIS, using, software. How, as educators, do you balance which software do you train on? Do you train on ARC? Do you train on Q? Do you run EFC as the applied program, or you run in ProAgrica? There's so I always, juggle how much basics do I give and let the end user, meaning their bosses, say, okay, you're going to operate under SMS or under Q or under ProAgrica, under EFC. How do you balance that in your educational programs?
Well, at the 50,000-foot view in remote sensing with unmanned aircraft, we start them on QGIS, even though they have ArcGIS experience and SMS experience in Bryan's classes. We start them in QGIS and just teach them about how to understand the whole process of working towards change detection. If there's any one thing that we have to teach students in agriculture, it's change detection.
Yes.
Using raster analysis. So we spend the whole time on that in one course. And then to get them to a higher level or degree of workforce entry, they can take a private class with Dr. Whittenton and I in
PIX4D.
PIX4D.
The PIX4D.
Yeah, well, we try to look for gold standards. So SMS, Egg Leader, PIX4D, QGIS, ArcGIS. These are gold standards. And if a student understands DBase protocols, nomenclature, file nomenclature, and just basic rudimentary, what we call Esri rules, then they should be able to pick up any skill set and move it forward. So in my solar work, I'm training myself to do AutoCAD Solar in Revit. I'm training myself, but I have enough background to know that I can take any of those skills and move them forward.
Well, I think that's a great thing, and I like to share that. I'm glad you said it, because as far as GIS software, I learned on SST Toolbox, which was basically ArcGIS for farmers, but it was heavy, right? It's not what the ProAgrica and all have now. It was GIS, and in language, I learned to write code for websites in 2000s, early 2000. I can't remember what, but you learn a
HTML,
language and you learn
HTML.
you learn a process, and it can be transferred easily, and you don't have to. So when you're talking to the folks hiring the students, what soft skills or what skills are they really want you to provide? Because all companies I've learned, they don't want us to provide all the skills, right? They want to instill certain skill sets themselves, but what are they hoping that you provide?
Communication and the
work ethic.
Yeah. One of the biggest, so we have a close relationship with the local John Deere dealer
Mm-hmm.
in the area and talk to them at least once a year about their expectations and what we can do to foster that partnership with
Mm-hmm.
them. And one of the big things is teaching students how a computer functions,
Mm-hmm.
but on the basic
Really?
level.
Yeah, what is
Okay.
it? What is a C drive? Why is it called a C drive? What was
How
an
to
A and a B
store
drive?
we most of my class we start the Precision Ag 1
Yeah.
class now with teaching students what a C drive is, where to store files, how to name files so you can get back to them, because ArcGIS and Q, they're both relative programs. They have to know where the data is for them to work properly. And even though we move on from that, the whole first semester in PA1 is spent with kind of without them knowing it, reiterating that concept over and over and over
Mm-hmm.
again. How to save files, where to save them, why we're saving them in that location to get back to later.
It makes sense. I do a senior level soil fertility, and the amount of time I help students in an Excel file making recs and just understanding that, by the time they're a senior in college, some of them may not have experience and understand what you can do in Excel. And so I'm usually,
PBA.
which is something I live in, right? I live in that, and I live in
But
Right.
Bryan, I got to ask you a question. What
Yeah.
year did you graduate from high school?
98.
Okay, I graduated in 79.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's the issue. No Child Left Behind started in 2004, but it was in full place by 2008. We have
Mhm.
students that are coming in taught to a test.
Yeah.
They're not taught to abstract or use constructivist ideas. They're taught to do rote memory. And they're also taught on non-IBM compatible computers. So they
Uh-huh.
don't know where the data is.
Yeah.
They just know that they got to get it and they got to get a project done.
You mean to start a program, they didn't have to go into DOS and write out the code?
Nope, they didn't have to know DOS code. Nope, I had to teach my 5-year-old DOS code. Yeah, he had to have something to do. So we taught him DOS.
I'm in the Xennial, so I'm in that middle run where I knew not, but I also know DOS. So.
We're talking about an age-old problem, but we know that in the next 18 years, academic enrollment is going to drop precipitously. The number of children being born in the United States is smaller and smaller all the time. However, we also know that the schools are largely not challenged to teach students to abstract. If the students can't abstract, then they can't misbehave.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't think with constructivist ideas, they cannot challenge the teacher. So it's easier to teach them to the test. Unfortunately, with Part 107 certification, we are teaching them to the test.
Yeah.
But what they're not being taught to the test is how to fly. Flying comes by the seat of the pants through the Academy of Model Aeronautics.
Mm-hmm.
And we say you must learn to fly in an aerodynamic manner. It is no longer just taking a drone and flying it forward and dropping a ball. And that is not a test. No, do you understand roll, pitch, and yaw? Do you understand launch and land?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand the tests that should be done in midair to make sure that you're airworthy? And so we can take classes, Bryan and I can both do this. We can take classes that have some very rote, forward thinking, answer the questions directly, but then we can ask them to abstract with their skills, either in your labs or in my flight labs. And so there are ways to get around this non-constructivist rote memory population.
That's fascinating. So let me ask you this: as far as I don't know the proper way to phrase this, but if I look at what's on the marketplace and what's utilized in agriculture right now, the aeronautic skills, what I think are fascinating, would not be utilized heavily if we look at what's at least in the marketplace, because many of them are a plug and play. If I look at my fixed wing,
correct,
right,
correct.
I'm more worried on my fixed wing about wind speed, wind direction, making sure I have the proper. But I'll tell you, the kids I train on that fixed wing are not trained on aeronautics and probably don't need it.
But you don't know the Academy of Model Aeronautics training format.
I actually do. I've gone through that. So.
Okay, so we have it available online.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who wants to, learn a flight through the AMA can go to our website at Mississippi State. Just go to msstate.edu and search for Future Growers Technologies.
Yep.
And we have some VR there, but we also have in the documents page, we have all of the training materials. And we need students that even fly quads to understand that it is a roll, pitch, and yaw. It is a theory, and those aerodynamics will keep you safe. So let me say, do you know how to do a maximum line of sight recovery for your aircraft? If you lose it, can you do that?
I used to. Yeah.
Okay. So that is the single most important thing we can teach a student. And the truth be known, aerodynamics is really important. I don't care if you have an autonomous vehicle. When that vehicle goes out of control, you have to be able to control it. And by teaching students to fly aerodynamically rather than automatically or through automation, we will be much safer, and especially as the skies get filled with aircraft. And by the way, Bryan and I have together written 2 or 3 textbooks on this. Right. We wrote a textbook on how to build a drone that is automated with Pixhawk, and we've also written books on how to do some of the Pix4D software. We've written books together that can become curriculum. That is curriculum, I should say. So there are ways to move forward in this, but I want people to stick with the basics.
Yeah. Well, I guess I should probably quantify or qualify what I was saying before is that I'm the same way. I like to teach the mechanics. So mechanics are extremely important to me. I don't care if you can do it automated. I want you to be able to do it longhand as far as
that's right.
All that stuff. And so it's extremely important. I guess that comment would have been more of the end user. If you're going out to a consultant group, I understand the need for those AMA trainings and the value there. But if I look at what's going out in the industry, I'd be curious if does the industry understand the value of that?
Yes. When my students go out from my class and then they interview for a job and they're asked to fly a drone, I teach them 10 tests, 10 tests that they must perform before they fly a strange drone. So the boss will put the drone down on the ground, and the student will do a little bit of review of literature, and then they'll conduct these 10 tests in front of the boss, and the boss will say, "What are they doing?" I said, "I'm conducting the test. This is an unfamiliar aircraft. These tests must be conducted before I fly your aircraft," and they will get hired on the spot.
Nice.
Because it shows that they have the ideas and the construct in their minds to know when the aircraft is working or not. So I don't think you know the 10 tests. I'm imagining you don't, because they were never codified. Lots of people fly in the AMA and they just fly, but we codified the AMA training, and it's online. It's all available online. There's videos, there's printables. You can do whatever you need to. You can teach yourself to fly. But the important thing is that there's a standard going out to the field, and our students get hired immediately when they show those 10 tests.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm going to be honest, Amelia and Bryan, we're out of time, and I haven't got halfway of what I want to talk about. And so
let's get together again.
I'd love to.
It's time for our famous 3.
I love these conversations, but sometimes they go sideways, and I don't know. But it's been a lot of fun. I always ask my guests a couple questions, and so we're going to do that for both of you. If you have different answers, feel free to answer. But what is a go-to work resource when you have a problem, whether it's a challenge, whether it's in the UAV or whether it's just any day? Where's some of the go-to work resources for both of you?
Well, it really depends on
Google.
Google, yes, absolutely.
No, Google, YouTube,
Google and ChatGPT. ChatGPT have come up often, so
yeah, Google.
I like to go, especially with things like QGIS, ArcGIS Pro. Here, I don't know which version y'all use. Our university here just dropped their ArcMap license, and so we're kind of scrambling to
they did
update all the labs to ArcGIS Pro and thinking about the future there. Whereas
Go
if
Q.
you have QGIS, like Amelia's saying right now, you don't have to worry about that because it's open source. So
I'll tell you, I still have students now come in to me and it's like working on Arc, and I have to reteach myself because I've gone so much to Q. Now I've got to rethink Arc when I go that direction.
Right. And I talk to people here in the area that are in the forest service industry, and some of them, one guy runs his own company. He still uses ArcInfo. So,
Wow.
he just does not want to update. He has his process, and
That is not supported by the university. I can say
no.
that much. I just going to go to the next part is that, when you guys have free time, this is going to be curious because I want to say we have two different generations here. And so what does your free time, what are some fun things the two of you do in your free time?
Hot tub. We put in a massage pool in our shop down here, and Brian and his wife, and they bring the baby over and they get in the hot tub, and then when they're done, I get in the hot tub.
I need a shop like you guys because mine does not have a hot tub.
Of the 6 things they say seniors regret buying, a hot tub is not one of them.
I love it.
Yeah.
What's fun for you?
So I have a smoker in the backyard.
There you go.
And so every now and then, about once every 6 months, I'll grab 6 or 7 pork butts and smoke them for the local church gathering, or just cook for the family, briskets, pork butts, sausages, all kinds of fun stuff. So
I love it. I've got a large smoker that I only roll out about 3 times a year, but when I do, I'll do about 40 pounds of smoked summer sausage, and I'll do 6.
Oh yeah.
I load it up with about 100 to 200 pounds of meat, and I just do one long full
Just
day
let it roll.
Yeah. I'll do bologna, pork butt, ribs, summer sausage, birds, just whatever I throw on. It's just
We're all gonna die.
Oh yeah. Then I freeze it, and then we can eat for a year.
That's great.
All right. Now, finally, the final question I have for the two of you is, you've already talked about a lot of your resources. Where do people go if they want to find out more about what's going on in your program at Mississippi State, or just good resources as far as education, as far as UAV and piloting?
Well, I want to send you back to Future Grower Technologies at Mississippi State, msstate.edu. Go search Future Growers Technology. We post everything open source up there. Everything we have, even Pix4D, a little bit about Pix4D, and everything we have is posted up there. We keep this open. And this came down to a problem that FAA, chooses sometimes closed-door sources, and we want to counter that. We want to keep everything open and available. So on the flight remote sensing side, go to Future Growers Technology.
I love it because it's the same thing. I've had resources that come and go, and so having it as an always open source is sometimes a challenge, especially with FAA.
Yeah, so same thing Dr. Fox was saying. Anything through our extension service, we've got a new extension director this year, and he is really trying to focus the faculty for as much as he can pull into training those local extension agents more in the new technologies and the new systems that we have and their availability. So even local extension agents would probably be a good resource for farmers.
Absolutely.
And if not, reach out to the service that's located here on campus, to the director of that extension service, and he can point them in the right direction.
Well, I got to tell you, I love your all's campus. I go down there often. I've been to the row crops meeting as a speaker 3 or more times.
Wonderful.
I've been working with MSU Extension for my entire career, now getting to know more of your researchers. Even have a couple of my students now are faculty down there. So
Chegman Dillon.
I've always enjoyed Mississippi State. I've loved Starkville and everybody about it. All right. So with that, again, folks, we've had Dr. Amelia Fox, who's assistant professor at Mississippi State, along with Dr. Bryan Whittenton, also assistant professor at Mississippi State. Both of them are teaching faculty down there, focusing on the GIS technologies and UAV operations, helping folks get their Part 107s and training on all things needed in not only just flying, but also in processing the data and how to do it all right. If you really enjoyed this, hit that subscribe so you can follow this channel so you know when we have a new release, which comes out about once a week. Also share this video with folks if you learned something new. Share it with friends, share it with acquaintances. Make sure that the Crop Science Podcast gets out there. Also, don't be afraid to leave us a comment. Let us know what you suggest in any new guest. Again, Dr. Fox, Dr. Whittenton, thank you so much for joining me today. I've had a ton of fun in this conversation. I feel like we should probably bring you back to actually talk about other things going on in the world of Mississippi State and the UAV education world.
Please do, and allow us to thank you and say, Hail State.
Fantastic. I got to throw out a go pokes, but you guys have a fantastic day.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.